Hello, Aries. Welcome. Thank you for being here. This is going to be a general read from what I've been dealing with. Of course, everything may not resonate, so take what does and leave the rest. And for more tarot readings after this, please check out my wife's channel and THEYRE Tarot, which is review as well. Thank you. All right, so let's see what's going on. Oh, wow. That's what an energy right away, Aries. That's actually pretty cool to see. What is the shedding of the shadow? Meaning what? Bringing light to one's own triggers. How fascinating. Yeah, cycles and seasons, Aries. Yeah, and there's the world. That's pretty fascinating to see. Thank you for the information, by the way. Let me kind of just jump right into this and we'll kind of just go with it. What they show me right away is the shedding of a shadow. That is a very clean and smooth energy. Even though it's not an easy thing for them to do, clearly, it definitely is something that's happening, taking place, and that's exactly what it is. Cycles and seasons, kind of like circles, just circle, circle, circle. That is interesting. Um, wow. With the shedding of that shadow, they do emphasize between the two of you, like, that is just clear. It is just clear. And I'm not looking at, the typical clear as day type of energy. It is just so emotionally clear, like, well, here we are. Um, oh, goodness. What is that release of some sort of emotional trigger that they're kind of going through? In the typical saying of, what causes you to do what you do? A shadow, an emotional trigger. To release that trigger or to kind of remove it or shed it, get rid of it, not needed, kind of like a button. It's like who installed those, triggers, who installed those buttons that kind of emotionally set you off? Your upbringing, relationships, connections, just life. What caused you to kind of like emotionally react in a sense? That external circumstances, that's all shedding away. That is a nice energy. I'm a little curious as to how this is moving forward because that is like, okay, and I'll sometimes reference that. Leave your ego at the door. Leave your ego at the door. Your ego is not your amigo. Meaning, kind of like drop the act, in other words. I feel like that's what's going on for them. Drop the act, drop the front, drop the facade. Um, be vulnerable. Show your real face. Show who you really are underneath all that. Bare your heart and your soul. Um, and really see life for exactly the way it is. That's interesting. That's not necessarily a, exposure. It makes me think of, like, for some reason, a camera. When you take a picture, there's a million different filters you can put on a picture nowadays. But just raw, authentic. I mean, how many people post just a raw, authentic, whatever picture? Just like click, there it is, throw it out there. How many people really do that? How many people really look at life or one another or relationships or connections that way? Like, damn, that's just raw. That's just it is what it is. That's real. That's authentic. That's a nice energy. That is a real nice energy. Like, no sense of beating around the bush, no sense of hiding, no sense of this complete vulnerability. Just like, well, here we are. There's the lovers. Well, here we are. I see you, and you see me. There's the truth. Look at this. Truth is, truth is the truth. It's not necessarily, oh, geez Louise, there's justice. It is what it is. It is what it is. Like I said, not necessarily exposed, but just into the light. Into the light. Interesting. Aries. Aries, Aries, Aries. I don't think you want to do this today, Crosswatcher. And I'm not talking specifically to who you're asking about, Aries. Anonymous has entered the chat. Anonymous has entered the chat, meaning what? When you see an energy like this, for some reason I think of it this way for a perfect example. Let's just kind of like say you're out in public. And there's two types of people. And how they respond to this kind of energy. Something that could be seen so positive. Like, let's just say for the sake of love. There's people out there that just love love. It's a beautiful thing. The beauty of life. Happiness of life is shared with another. True happiness, true lasting happiness is shared with another. And so some people love love. They walk out in public and they'll see couples, they'll see love, New Year's. It's like, oh, new couple, new item, new thing, whatever, new boo, whatever. And it's kind of like, that's nice. Good for them. Good for them. They found love. They found someone. Good for them. Seriously, good for them. And then there's those other people that are kind of just, they're kind of, that's what's missing. And they kind of have a bit of a darker energy to them, where it's just kind of like they may see love. They may see a new couple and they're just like, kind of just like, and they're the ones that actually need love the most. They're the ones that need love the most because it's missing. And so they kind of, they kind of bucket in a sense. They're like, nah, forget that. There's those that love love, and then there's other that are kind of like, yeah, I just don't believe in it. I don't think real love exists. And the naysayers, in other words. The non-believers. The non-believers of love and light. Right? Anonymous. Those that do not believe in love and light. That's what I'm looking at. So I don't know what the anonymous third party energy is that kind of showed up. But this energy is kind of, I feel like this is around your situation, Aries. There's going to be a lot of naysayers. There's going to be a lot of, I don't believe it. I don't buy it. It's not real. It's not authentic. That's not love. They're just trying to throw shade. That's all they're trying to do. And it's almost kind of like, some people just can't stand to see people happy. Go figure. It's kind of like, yeah, because you're dealing with something dark. You're dealing with something a little darker. I haven't actually seen a reading like this in some time. Takes me back years. Takes me back years where there's like, energies on the outskirt and this kind of energy between you and them, Aries. Go figure. There's the Ace of Cups right there. Look underneath that. There you are, Aries. Almost makes me think of, Libra. It's who they were asking about or doing with, I think like 2 days ago. It was like, love you. It's almost kind of like Aries. Love for Aries. Much love for Aries. But what I was saying was, when it comes to this kind of love, you really have to protect it. You can't allow these outside influences to step in and want to destroy or throw shade or kind of like dim your light. You really have to protect it. Boundaries. That's what it's all about. Speaking of, there's Libra right there. You really have to protect it. Because some people will just, makes me think of the Three Little Pigs and the Big Bad you-know-what. I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. Such as the story goes. They're like, why? This is our house. What are you trying to do? Come through like a wrecking ball. And so you have to protect what is yours. And so I feel like, Aries, you got to protect what is yours. There's a beautiful energy here between you and them. And whoever this outside energy is, they're showing up like a big bad wolf. But remember, the last little piggy built his house out of brick. Meaning the foundation of what you build your relationships or your connections or your friendships on matters. The first little, what was it? I forget how the actual story goes. The first two houses. It was kind of like, in other words, they kind of had like this rickety shack. Well, there's the light now on top of the deck, right? Who was that painter, that famous painter? Got to slap the devil out of it, right? No mistakes, only happy additions. But anyways, what I was saying with the whole Three Little Piggies, Three Little Piggy stories, it was like, well, I forget what it was, like straw or hay or something, just kind of, it just wasn't durable. It just wasn't built to last. Foundation. How you do something matters. If you do something, in other words, like, quick and kind of half-assed or just thrown together, it might be something that's, doable. Kind of like, like I said, it wasn't, in other words, the house in the story, they're little huts or whatever. It wasn't built out of brick. It was built out of, just fast, cheapy materials. In a sense, the foundation. They didn't really take their time to build a home, build a foundation for the connection of the relationship. They just kind of threw something together and it's like, that'll do. We'll sleep on the ground. We got a roof. Okay, that'll do. You got to put in the groundwork, the footwork. There's the high priest. I'd say that's some work. What I like about this, Aries, look at this, by the way. You have the high priest and the high priestess showing up. Look at this. Look at the two of you. This isn't, emperor, empress, Aries. This is high priest, high priestess. This is a different kind of energy. It makes sense why you would protect that. But like I said, when it comes to light, go figure. On top of the deck, you can kind of see them kind of just sitting on a, kind of like on their knees, with the lamppost behind them, the light above, and it's kind of like, yeah. But clearly with that lamppost up there, it's dark, it's shadowy. It's sort of like, clearly on a bench or out on the streets. The differences in light. Some people allow that love and light to guide them. Other people kind of, settle for artificial. Look at the 10 of Cups. Oh my goodness. That's happiness. That is happiness. That's family. Familia. Look at the happiness. Look at the happiness. It kind of makes me think of kind of like those holiday movies as well. It's unfortunate. Like I said, it's like those are the kind of people or those are the kind of energies that need that love the most. But it makes me think of those, holiday movies where it's like everyone's inside celebrating like a holiday or something, and someone kind of like they're walking on the street or kind of just walking by, travelers, weary travelers, and they kind of look in and they're just like, damn. And like I said, they had that first initial shadow shock of like, but deep down they actually yearn for it and they crave for it. That connection, that emotion, that feeling, that experience. They yearn for it. And it's this hunger and it's this desire that just won't let them sleep. It just won't let them rest, in other words. A restless spirit, a restless soul. Something, something, something. Somewhere, somewhere, somewhere. Someone, someone, someone. The restlessness. It makes me think of, the paranormal community. If you are watching, hello. Restless spirits. Those who go investigating, searching for answers to, the afterlife. Those spirits or those souls who are not truly at rest. They kind of feel like maybe trapped in like some sort of energetic or spiritual purgatory where they're like, I don't know what happened to me. What's going on? I feel like, what happened to my life? What happened to my old life? Where am I? What's this life? And they're kind of searching for some sort of little, in a sense, nugget of life. Something of, familiarity, significance. As in, like, there's got to be some sort of traces of my life, some sort of, breadcrumbs that'll lead me back to me. I just got to find it. I just got to, put that puzzle together. Goodness. I was going to say, I understand this, Crosswatcher. This is what you call when someone hijacks a reading. There's two different timelines. There's two different timelines taking place, Aries. So of course, parts of this will and will, other parts will not resonate. There's a beautiful energy, like I said, between you and someone very close to you that there is a lot of love with. And then there's like this energy, like I said, anonymous, we'll just call them, that stepped into the chat. And of course, let's just say the entanglement of the two different timelines. I don't know why they want to find out about themselves, but like I said, they are the ones that need love the most. Everybody needs loving. Everybody needs loving. There's that Two of Cups. Like I said, love is love. Love is love. Love is love. So even though they kind of like want to steer the direction of this crosswatcher, love is love. Even you know it. Even you know it. You can't deny that. If you had your perfect partner, this whole reading would be different. You know it. I know it. There's no sense in bullshit in here. You know it. I know it. We know it. It's okay. You don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell Aries either. But if you had your perfect partner, your perfect person, you wouldn't be acting this way. You wouldn't be thinking this way. You wouldn't be doing what you're doing. Your whole life would be different. You know that. In a split second, your whole life would be different. There's the Tower. That is the difference between instant gratification and long-lasting happiness. Kind of like saying the life you want, pick or choose. Pick or choose ultimately. It does come down to free will. Pick or choose. What kind of life do you want? A life of quick, instantaneous validation or appreciation or acknowledgement or instant gratification? Or do you want a life, like I said, built on brick foundation or maybe stone? To where, like, you know what? This shit is going to be here for thousands of years. Not some sort of straw little hut. Like I said, Aries, with that Emperor throne. That throne is built out of stone, not sand. Then again, if you know what you're doing, you can turn that sand into stone. But like I said, with that Tower, that is that foundation. That is that foundation. Interesting. I like that, Crosswatcher. I like that. I like that. What you're emphasizing is great. Need to deconstruct and reconstruct and focus on foundation. I like it. I like it. So what you're saying is there's something here about Aries and who their significant other is. You are inspiring whoever this anonymous is on the outskirts to want to actually, you know what, maybe put down some roots and maybe follow in your footsteps. Or maybe kind of like take your lead. Or what's that called? Yes, take your lead, I believe. In a sense, Aries, you are guiding or leading them to want to, I guess you're like an inspiration for what is possible. Like, you know what? That is something to look up to. That is something to aspire to. Aries, you and your love for your partner makes me want to pursue the exact same thing and maybe kind of follow in your footsteps. That's a nice energy, Aries. We'll see where this goes. Goodbye.